So, our first task is, after reading the case study, obviously, to design something which will save the European launching industry. And it's funny because last week I mentioned that we want to launch only cargo and no people into space, and several days later ESA astronauts announced this manifesto that they would like to pursue member states to develop crewed vehicle. Okay, but it's still not in our case study. So developing a crew vehicle, it's like tripling the costs at least, because you need way better safety measures, quality checks, quality assurance. So that's why. And the other interesting phenomenon is that United Launch Alliance, which is an American company, the union at the company, workers' union, were saying that they had already agreed to cut wages to stay competitive with SpaceX, which is quite interesting from our point of view, because they are trying to keep competitive by using the same old technology, which is not reusable. So yeah. Okay, so our task that we have to design a new vehicle. So let's say that assignment 1 will be defined. So a bright new strategy. And I will zoom in. Obviously, you can see this size, or should I zoom in further?
No, it's okay.
That's okay. I will definitely extend it. Oh, practically this is a title, so okay. Okay, so summary. So this is the task here. Please design a new launch vehicle. Good. First, we have to design a launch vehicle purely on financial basis, because we are economists, so not engineers. We need information about main components, define the overall costs of the platform. So, okay. This data will be needed to estimate the operational expenditures in the profit and loss statement. Yeah, it's good. And this will be the basis of our launch price, obviously, what determines the market multiplicator effect. So this is the next thing. And we have to submit in a Word file with relevant tables and documentation. So let's say task. So maybe we should start with the last point, because this is what you can remember from the case study, that market matters a lot for us. So if we would like to increase our share in the cake, or at least maintain our current share in the market, then we have to cut some prices. So that's why we have to be able to say that market pricing is following with this equation. So if we are able to have lower costs, then we can increase the launch number. So key problems to solve. Before we are doing any design, then the next point will be design. So obviously our first problem is that the vehicle is current vehicle is too expensive to maintain. Market share or market at all. So we can see that even if it was announced that oh, the Ariane 6 will be cheaper, so on average it will be around 95 million US dollar, which is way more cheaper than the previous Ariane 5 with 120 to 160 million US dollars or euros. Still we can say that we have a really small amount of launch requests ahead, so this is still expensive. So Ariane 6 platform with the average launch fee or launch price is still too expensive. Since there are only a small number of orders. From our partners. So yeah. So therefore, to increase numbers, we have to cut the price further. Towards the we can say that if we are able to go under 60 million, then our launch requests are jumping in the sky, so we can say that okay, towards the number. Increase. Okay, so this is the first problem, and in this case we have to have something which is maybe reusable or something which is dirt cheap. Just we can say that we cannot build a cheaper vehicle. So if you are looking on the components, well, let's look on the components. So okay, in this case, if we are using Merlin engines, we need 20 million US dollars just for engines. So in this case, we need just also 20 million because still we need the vacuum engine. So it's two engines, so it's also 20 million. The Russian engine used in Atlas 5 is way more expensive, so it's already close to. So if we are not able to reuse it, or sorry, we have another option, because we can build this terrible solid rocket which is around 40 million US dollars. Just still we need also half of it on the top, so yeah, if you are desperate enough, then we can build this, but maybe it's not feasible. So or possibilities to cut costs, the following. So first of all, we have to purchase something cheap, engines. So engines should be cheaper. Also, we can have the opportunity to build everything from fancy carbon composites, just in this case only the making of this composite body would be 80 million US dollars and euros, so that's why it's quite out of the question for us. So maybe if you are a professional company which uses it on day-to-day business, but yeah, so it's maybe we should not do this, so that's why we should use this aluminum lithium composite. Yeah, I set it to US, and in the US they are not speaking well to pronounce aluminium. It's just aluminum. Only aluminum lithium stage is cheap. For us. And obviously reusability. So partial reusability of the first stage. Needed to recover 75% of the launch costs. Just it creates a secondary problem, so maybe on fleet average, so once we are able to recover it, so we have stable 10 launches for each first stages before we have to retire them. Still there is a problem that we have to survive the learning curve, so first stages will be not recovered, but still we have to sell them on cheaper prices to increase our market, so that's why we will suffering losses. So but until the platform matures or reaching platform maturity, we can assume that most of our first stages will be not recovered, and while we have to maintain, and we have to sell them at low prices. Therefore we need some capital buffers. So right now our cash reserves are 2.4 million euros, which is, I don't know, we can buy sandwiches from them, or so it's really low. So therefore we need some additional funding. Additional capital buffer for the next 2 years. So actually this problem makes everything from just an engineering problem to a funding related program, because now we have to issue some bonds or shares or something to get money. And also what is important, that not just cheaper engines are required, but also maybe we should reduce the number of possible solid bracket engines, because we can see that one solid booster, if our vehicle is, or the engines are weak, one booster is 9 million euros. So that's why if we are not able to recover them, then still we are increasing the fixed cost for each launch by 18. So okay, so this is how we can identify so a problem in any case study. So we have to say that, okay, what is the objective? So the objective was here, that this to increase the markets, and how can we achieve this? So this is the second bullet point, when we are identifying points that, okay, right now our problem is to cut costs, but how can we do this from engineering point of view and also from funding point of view? So that's why we can highlight it, that we need this. So now we can think about that, okay, which platform can be useful for us. Somehow it changes to Hungarian. So which components, let's say, can be suitable for us. So let's go through all the main components. Maybe we should start with fuel, because yeah, I mentioned that fuel is really cheap, so it's highly negligible from expenditure point of view. It's 0.3% of overall spending, but since all the engines are using predefined fuel, that's why everything is built around the fuel. So it is not cost, but an issue. It would be funny to load everything in to any engines, just physics is not working this way. Practically, I think that maybe hydrogen and methane can be burned at the same vehicle, but still the temperatures and pressures will be different, so that's why there is a reason why companies are not mixing them up. So Okay, so if you are looking on kerosene, it's easier to store. We don't have to cool them off. It's not expanding once it's starting to reach higher temperatures from minus some hundred Celsius. So, and we can buy it anywhere. So maybe kerosene is better option. We can say that okay, but methane is way better. Just we have to still keep it on low temperature. So let's use kerosene. It's not fancy. At least in my solution, you can choose whatever you want. Just I have to provide you a sample solution, so that's why. I can have my own preferences. That kerosene is easy to manage, to store, and to use, and to purchase. So once it's loaded in the rocket, then it's kept there, so it's not floating away. There is one problem, that if you are not using the stage in 0G, then you know that they start to make bubbles. So every liquid is which is not gaseous, then they have to be kept pressurized with some helium or something like this, because otherwise you are not able to reignite your vehicle, because you have just bubbles bouncing back and forth inside the tank. And if you are using too much helium, then the helium will diffuse inside this liquid, and then it destroys your engine. So it also has issues, but yeah, let's forget about this. And we can say that in most of the cases, kerosene requirements are quite the same. So 0.3% of overall costs. Yeah, and also we have to say that it's relatively dirtier than the it's not water vapor when it's burned like helium, or it's less clean when you are burning it like the methane, but otherwise nice. Okay, so engine. It would be obvious to use the Merlin engine, so I'm not doing this. I have to choose something more crazier. So since SLE 200 is still in early stage of development, but it will be used for the GSLV 3 rocket. I don't know why they are using these terrible names in India, but what? Okay, Chapcha, but I'm not robot. I'm not. So this is how this vehicle looks like. So I would like to take the engine from here, but right now this engine is different because they are using the Vikas engines, which is burning nasty stuff. So it's UDMH and nitrogen tetroxide, so it's highly poisonous. That's why they want to change it to this new engine. So we can say that it's under development. Maybe it has some issues later on, so it's less reliable, so that's why it has a higher tendency to explode. So for my case study to save the European space program, is perfect solution. That pros. It's a new engine, new design. Probable, probably. Probably usable. It burns kerosene. Okay, whatever. So it burns kerosene, and cheap. So if you are looking on the case study, we can say that it's 11.5 million US dollars, and we need 2 of them. So actually it's more expensive than the Vulcan, but in this case we don't have to use hydrogen, so maybe that's the trade-off, why it's a bit more expensive. But it has the same tendency to explode, so, and we need less amount of solid rocket boosters, so this is the catch here. That's why it looks so fancy for me. So we have to spend twice. Cons, obviously it has issues, so new design. At the first times we can see some fancy fireballs, but actually until you are launching cargo it doesn't matter so much, because every satellite must be insured. So usually insurance costs are around 3% of the cargo, 2% of the cargo. It depends on the probability of explosion. So older vehicle designs have insurance cost around 2% of the vehicle, or sorry, 2% of the cargo, while at the same time newer vehicles have 4 to 3% of insurance fees for the cargo. So at least if we are exploding something, we don't have to pay anything for the satellite company. The insurance will cover this, and the insurance must be paid by the satellite company, not us. So that's why we just not get our revenues, but that's all. Okay, so new design. Explosion, malfunction. Yeah, not malfunction, but malfunction. And usually companies are calling it as an anomaly. So when you see that it's completely disintegrated, but still they are talking. Oh, it happened several years ago that an European launch happened, and there was a complete error in the third stage, and people were talking in front of the camera that, oh, this new satellite will be so useful for us, and in the background you were able to see that it's starting to fall back, and they did not realize it for maybe 5 minutes. So I can't say it was funny to see, but just interesting, utterly interesting. So new design, probability of malfunction is a bit high. And the problem is that still you need 2 solid rocket boosters. So it looks likely if I'm using so many valid points, so let's keep it this way. Okay, so like a booster SRB. Unfortunately, we need 2 of them. Per launch. Oops. Which is sad. Okay, then we need the stages. Let's say first stage. Actually, there is a chance that you can combine aluminum composite with carbon composites. So first stage can be something, and the second stage can be another thing. I prefer simple things, so let's say that for me everything will be from the same material. Maybe there can be a benefit. Right now I can't see what, but usually students are way more creative than me, so that's why. It's not composite, it's alloy. So we can say that yeah, but it's already in the cost description that so the entire cost of something like this is in euros. We have to multiply it by 70, so we have to take only 75% of the entire cost, because it's just the first stage, so second stage will be the remaining part. Let's write it up here. So second stage, 25%. Okay, so in this case we are using euros because we are manufacturing it in the euro area, so at least we don't have US dollar exposure here. And also we are manufacturing the solid rocket boosters, so we don't need, but we have to purchase the engines for US dollars, so in this case we are not able to avoid this. And we have the stages, and also we have some learning curve here for explosion. That's why carbon composites are better, at least supposed to be. Probability of malfunction is this for each year. Yeah, we can ask the question that yeah, but second stage can also malfunction, so actually we should double this one, but I don't want to complicate anything further, so let's say that if there is an error, then it will happen in the first stage. Yeah. We already have so many probabilities of default. And recovering the vehicle, we'll have this. Probability of failed recovery. It's also in the next year. So obviously in the first year we will see nothing, just fireballs, but engineering team will be happy to work around the clock to solve them and to have fireballs for different other reasons. Okay, now as an economist we have to define that, okay, we have some design here. But from financial point of view, what matters for us is that which costs are emerging for each launches and which costs are emerging, not emerging for each launches. So what are the fixed costs, what are the variable costs for launch. So or we can say that first stage related and second stage related costs, maybe they are better. Costs related to the reusable first stage and costs related to each launch, or for each launches, not usable components. Now let's start with this one. So obviously we need fuel, and this fuel will cost us, so from our data set we can see that we need a nice amount of kerosene, and the fuel price for kerosene is always bigger and bigger, but right now when I was downloading the data it was I can say that it's so we can say that, yeah, this is the smallest cost. Then we will need our solid rocket booster, two of them, yeah, now it looks like the same, and also the second fairing. So this is on the top of the rocket. So this component, it saves all the cargo from the atmospheric pressure and to hit birds and so on. So fairing, it's cost several millions, so it's quite cheap. Yesterday SpaceX announced that now they have a recovery percentage of 95% of fairing because they are also fishing it out from the ocean, but they need boats for that one. At the beginning they had the idea that they put parafoils on the top of the fairing and huge nets on the top of ships, and they were trying to catch it, and sometimes they were able to catch it, but mostly it was splashed down in the Atlantic Ocean, so it was able to say that, okay, let's seal up everything and let's fish it up, then instead of using this stupid net catching system. So now we cannot say that there is a plenty of fishes in the sea, but because also there are plenty of fairings in the sea for them. Fairing. Fairing, okay. 7 million euros. So it's, if you are able to recover it, it's still a nice amount of money, but you don't have to repurpose. Just, I have absolutely no information about not just the recovery price, but also the expenditure related to the boats, expenditures related to the personnel, how much refurbishment do they need this, so that's why I excluded it. So we are not reusing it. Let's keep it in the sea. It's not polluted already enough. Okay, then reusable parts. Oh, almost forget. Second stage. Second stage was 4.5 million euro. And also engine. Engine on the second stage, it was 11.5. We have to buy it for US dollars, so altogether, or partially reusable vehicle is not so reusable yet. Okay, what can be reused? First stage, hull of the first stage, obviously. So still we can say that we can save 13. Yes. And the engine, which is the same, but it has smaller nozzles, but that's why we don't have to. I don't like solid rocket boosters, but okay, that's my sample solution, so it can be inefficient. Just this looks terrible. So if you are building up or filling this nice table with data, then we can see that, okay, engine, hull, solid rocket booster, engine, hull, total fuel needs, fairing cost. There is already the number, so you just have to update my data when you are solving this, and it will. If you have the number, if you have the price, then the function already computes it. What do you need here? And if you are efficient enough, then there is a huge zero here, so it's no problem. And we can copy this one. Table 1. Expected costs. And it's still English. Okay, so now we can see that we can recover 25 million euros, and we will burn up way more in the atmosphere, but still we can recover this one. So overall, one launch takes us 66 million euros, which is still above our targeted range. So we should be under 60.
After that, we will put the margin.
Yes.
That's the point.
Yeah. So still we have to say that if we are adding up all the margins here, then so calculating 10 not reusable component launches, so it's and 1 manufacturing of 1 first stage, which is then on average 1 launch cost can be around if nothing explodes. So okay, and after that I get the same numbers. Okay, after that we have to determine the margin here. So because this margin will determine our profit once we are able to recover the vehicle, but it also provides us the ability to finance the company until we are not able to recover it. Yes. So we can minimize possible losses. So
let me ask you a question.
Sorry?
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
We only focus on the financial part, but there is a RUD.
Yes.
We didn't think about that. Actually, I think that in long term, actually, you can use a carbon component.
Yeah.
And it will be efficient and financially and the safety part.
Yes.
Actually,
Indeed.
Actually, there is a reusability.
Yes.
And also the less percentage on the RUD.
Indeed. So, but I'm focusing on using or saving the European launch business. Yes.
In the long term, it will help.
Yes, definitely. So, because maybe the first stage, when it matters how you can recover, carbon composite is way better choice, and the second stage can be from aluminum because it doesn't matter. You have to use it. It's cheap.
Actually, we can prolong this.
Yes.
There's a methane, and it's underdeveloped, and SpaceX is also using that.
Yeah.
Actually, we can use that, but we can prolong the lifespan. It will also help us for this, minimize the cost. Because there is a 10 million difference.
Yes.
We can put as a margin this part.
Yeah.
This will be the reduction.
Yes, definitely.
That's right.
So I think that what I was able to build here, this monstrosity,
is I understand.
Yeah, it's maybe the less efficient thing what you can make up here.
I couldn't say, but yeah.
I try to see that even if you are building something ugly, it still can provide us functionality, because after that, if we are able to see that still it's not happening on the market, we can still say that we can do it. There is a possibility from financial point of view. So yeah, so let's say that our margin is 30%. €56.7 million. Okay, practically we have to be around or under 60. So if we are saying that, okay, let's increase this one, still better. 2, still better. Then let's say 6. Yeah. But it's still, we can still have 7. Yeah. Okay, so we could increase it further and further, but okay, let's keep it simple. So let's keep some potatoes on the table, but efficiency would require this. And also we have to determine the probability of loss of the vehicle. So now it's not even designed, so now we are talking about the next stage, which is launch price. And also probability of rapid unscheduled disassembly entire vehicle. So it comes together from the stages and engine and reusability of the first stage is another issue. I know that the first time when SpaceX tried to recover the Falcon, they put parachutes on it, but disintegrated way earlier than the parachutes were allowed to open. Then they tried to propulsive landing, but at first time they were thinking that landing on a barge is a great idea directly. So they created a huge hole in the barge and they had to build a new one. The new design was that you are landing next to the barge on the sea, and if you are able to see that now the vehicle is secure, then it maneuvers off and on the top of it. So and it's good for them because once there was this case when there was some, I don't know, avionics malfunction, so this first stage started to rotate, as you were able to see it on the presentation, and they were trying to land it on land in Florida, but the first stage was originally targeting the sea, not the landing pad, and then it was falling nicely into the sea, so it was landing well, just it was rolling, and they were able to recover most of the main components from it. So it was not completely recovered, but still some parts were reused. So But right now, if it explodes, it explodes, so we are not saying anything. So we have to deal with the engine, we have to deal with the stage, and then we have to add them up, or not adding up, so you know that it's 1 minus this probability and multiplied with 1 minus this probability, and altogether they are adding up this probability. So actually we have a high chance to launch something in the first years, just also landing it's not probable. That probability of reusing the first stage is low. In the first 2 years, then it accelerates and goes up, and we have a learning curve here. I also remember that block 3 was the kind of Falcon 9 which was able to land and not explode. And then block 4, they tried to make this stable as a phenomenon, but mostly still block 4 was an experimental version, and block 5 which was stable in the case of reusability. So mostly block 4s were reused maybe once, and then they expanded them during the launches. So they did not want it to store them because it was still an experimental stage. So they were just launching them and not recover them at all. Just they were able to see that now the technology is working, so they focused completely on producing and reusing and launching and recovering the block 5. So we can see that there was an iteration also inside the platform as well. Okay, so after we did this, we have the ability to see that how the profitability of the company react on all this stuff. So let's see how the profit and loss statement is constructed in this case. And I will save this one. So, profit and loss statement. We have to think about the following fiscal years. So, and also, right now we have the original launch number, so we have this new launch price coming up, so that's why we have the new multiplied launch number. Obviously we cannot launch more than 52 vehicles a year because we have only one launch platform, one launch pad, and we can do it only once a week. We can use it only at this schedule. So since our vehicle is cheaper than less ugly-ish. And also, should not forget about this, but we have a probability of gaining revenue. So potential revenue must be the multiplication of this number, and that number, and after that we have this. So revenue is calculated by launch price multiplied by launch number and multiplied by the probability of gaining revenue. So hopefully we have something like this. Six. It's 1. Doesn't matter. It also doesn't matter. Okay, but before defining expenditures, so we can say that revenue here, so before defining expenditures we have to think about this part. So first stage, recovery management. But we have number of missions for probability of use the first stage nearly 0. Possibly reusable first stages, that's why it's 0, because we are rounding down. So we are multiplying this number with this number and rounding down, and we can say that okay, now we have to build 4 stages because we are not able to recover this stuff. Second year we have 20 of missions, higher probability of reusing the first stage since it was in our table here, and in this case if we are multiplying this number with this number, we can have a rounding down data that now at least if we build something we can recover it 10 times, and there also if another first stage is built, then we can launch it and recover it 2 times, and that's why to fulfill all these contracts we need only 10 first stages to build, because one is reused 10 times, then the rest is reused 2 times, and still we need 8. The first stages we will explode during landing, so we need 10 stages. So we can say that in this case we will burn money. In this case we will burn even more money, because now our launch numbers are increasing, but still our expenditures are way too high. And in the third year, however, the number of missions are increasing further, so now we have lots of launches, and the probability of reuse is also increasing, so that's why we have possibility reusable first stages, so it means that we can land and reuse. First stages, it means that it's 40, and that's why we need to build only 9 of them, because mostly we can serve, and then this launch number increases further, but reliability increases as well, so we need lower and lower number of first stages to construct. So it's great. In this case, in the last 3 years will be highly profitable. expenditures. So demand for first stage construction, manufacturing. Yeah, we are copy pasting this fancy table here. Yeah, in Central Europe we are always using these decimal commas instead of decimal points. Sorry for that. In Germany, and also I know that in Czechia and also in Poland people are doing this, which is great, just it makes Excel completely crazy, and that's why I don't like it. Just if you have to use it on both languages, then you cannot switch to English completely. Okay, so we can see that first stage costs will be increasing. Second stage fuel fairing SRB will also increase because of increased launch numbers. So at the end of the day, cost of sold goods will be at this level, while at the same time wages, they are stagnating around here. So as I mentioned last week, we know that Arianespace has an employee number of 321 if you are checking their website, but we don't know about their wage levels. I tried to get it in many different ways, but what I was able to get only that in France there is this average monthly salary level, so I doubled it because we are paying more in space business, so that's why we have annual wages like this, and in million euros. This is just in euros. So also we have depreciation because we know that they have some properties. Yes, yes, indeed, indeed. So
there's a problem.
Yes.
They will not even cover the manufacturing costs with the revenue. How
Yeah.
they will manage that?
That's why we have to take up loan. So the company will issue a corporate bond, because right now,
Okay, I see, but they can just prolong this length of time.
yeah, but actually funding yourself through bond issuance is really cheap in France. So if you are looking on fixed income because it's a bond, and bonds because it's a bond, and corporate bond because it's a company, and not looking on the world but France, and curves. Yeah, so if we are zooming in, we can see that BBB rated companies and Econ rated Arianespace as BBB, so it has some risk, but it's still a moderate risky company. We can say that annually it's 1.1% of interest.
Based on the risk, I asked the question.
Yes.
There is a huge risk in the first part,
Yeah.
in the first launch. They can explode, it is too high.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yes, yes.
You can't give the 200 million to the one company with risking all.
Yeah, but also from bondholder point of view, you can say that, but the two parent companies are Airbus and Safran engines, which are quite reliable and quite a robust ones. So even something wrong is happening, still they can bail out this subsidiary. So, but yeah. So actually they are in a lucky position. Actually, when I my entire SpaceX story and rocket launching story started with an argument on the internet, because I was saying that, okay, right now they can experiment easily with rocket launches in the US because funding costs are really cheap. But after that, when my partner during the argument pointed on that, okay, but we cannot see anything that the SpaceX is funding itself through bond issuance, mostly because it was completely funded by NASA. At least half of the money was coming from NASA, half if it was funded from equity. But even the money was coming from NASA, it was not 800 million, but still it was the entire project was 800 million. Yeah, but still we can say that, yeah, the seeding capital is necessary to start up the developing procedure. But for them it was necessary to build up all the infrastructure, buildings, manufacturing, which is already existing at the company. So yeah, yeah, it's this one. Yeah, it's highly artificial. So the European Central Bank purchases so many bonds on the market, so it's unrealistic. So once we will reach this topic during the semester, we will talking about stressing it, but what is happening when this is not the case, because yes, it's not real, but still we can find this on the market. So. And I don't like it, because companies which are rubbish can take up loans also under these conditions, and they are not forced to make profitable or to be productive, because come on, you can survive this. You can really accumulate huge debts without any punishment from the market. Okay, so expenditures. We can say that expenditures can be structured like this one. Based on the data here. Let's also make it a table. And after that, we can say that profitability of the company sorry, it's it's expenditures, okay. So the profit of the company will be highly negative in the first 2 years, and after that, once they are able to start to produce, then they can do this. So again, we can point on that non-recoverable expenditures related to the launch vehicle, they are way too high. So even if we have recovery, we can see that the solid rocket booster, they are so much burden to have here that if you can eliminate, then you can achieve profitability way earlier than in this case. So therefore, the company must take up a loan I already write this one, so let's keep it here. So yeah, So we need at least 211.5 million euros for long-term corporate bond, which is actually suitable because we don't have long-term debt. So if you are looking on the reconstructed balance sheet, the company had nothing at all. So right now they don't have cash reserves, but also they don't have long-term debt. So that's why it's easier to say that we are issuing bonds, and since they are sold at hamburger price, or at least the interest rates are ridiculously low, then why not to do this? Oh, this wage related stuff should be relocated to here. Yeah, and this is the conclusion that we need this kind of vehicle. So at the end of the day, we can see that third, fourth, and fifth year we will make a nice sum of money, and that's why next week we will start to deal with valuation.